Good afternoon and welcome back again, Realty Pros. We will continue the conversation from last week, which was focusing on the winter, preparing for this winter real estate market and making sure that we are prepared now with all of our farming, our marketing, and our prospecting to have a very productive and prosperous winter. Thank you guys for joining us again this week. I'm sure that some of you were here last week and Dee has already begun to give us a quick recap. But for those of you who are here now, take a moment and get yourselves together and please, by all means, join the conversation. As always, all of our Realty Talks are interactive, so feel free, unmute yourself, join the conversation, put something in the chat, raise your hand, do whatever you need to do. But we do believe that every joint supplies, so we appreciate all of your contributions. So I will ask, as you guys get yourselves settled in, to think about the discussion that we had last week and last week's training on preparing for the winter. And for those who were present on last week's Realty Talk, I would love to have you to give the group a refresher. Dee has already begun. She's given a couple of different pointers. Dee, now that we are officially recording, if you would like to repeat a couple of those, I'd welcome it. And for anybody else who was here last week along the topic, preparing for the winter months, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
So I was saying that I remember that we were talking about farming for the winter and the spring. We were tasked to choose neighborhoods or zip codes that we were interested in working in, and that we were to become the dominant presence in that neighborhood or zip code. And Mrs. Porter was saying, please choose just one. We want to focus on just one. And she said, I might let you get away with two, but I really want you to focus on just one. And we were going through the folks on the Realty Talks last week were each being called out to give the area that we wanted to focus in. And we were tasked with beginning to think about how we would market and what we were actually going to do. And the week before, Curtis was talking about his adventures going door to door after, not door to door, but going to each of his, the folks that he had sent marketing materials to after he had sent it out his marketing. And then he also mentioned in WhatsApp that he was excited to add a couple of new postcards to his routine marketing that he does. So we were focused on figuring out where we wanted to market so that we would farm and make sure that we have continued prosperity during the coming winter and spring.
Great job, Dee. I feel like I need to give you a round of applause. That was a great recap. Does anybody else have any pointers or any nuggets from last week or the week before? All right, if you do, feel free to unmute yourselves and I will continue. Just as Dee said, we're honing in. Herman, I see you've unmuted yourself. I'm going to go ahead and let you share. Go ahead. You're on.
Ms. Porter?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I just want to piggyback on what Dee said, because she pretty much said it all. What I realized is that I made some couple of wrong moves as far as the way I was trying to set up my farm area, because it was so large. I needed to fine tune it and really bring it into a little bit more into focus. So what I did was exactly like you said, came down to just one area that I'm really going to try to fine tune. I went out to the area, I drove around the area to make sure I knew exactly where it was and what the parameters and the borders were. And then I went on Bright and went on some of the other sites to see and to see what was coming up, which areas look like they may be where people may be distressed as far as for foreclosures or the like. And so I'm just trying to really fine tune now the area that I really want to work in, because I was kind of all over the place and the area that I was looking at was just too broad. So to really be able to fine tune it and to really come up with a marketing strategy that's going to really work, I had to kind of narrow the scope. So that's what I have been looking at, and that's what I've been working on, trying to make sure that I know exactly where I'm going, so I'm not just all over the place.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, Kermon.
Sure.
Does anybody else who was here last week have anything that they'd like to add? All right, so as your colleagues have said, the purpose for our training over this next few weeks is to make sure that we fine tune all of our efforts. Kermon said something that's very important. Both of them did in their recaps, but in real estate, when you consider marketing and you consider all of the different activities that you could do, it's very easy to become overwhelmed or become out of focus, right? And if you have if you're focused on 10 different things at one time, I challenge you and ask you if you were actually focused on anything, right? And I say that for all of us, because it's definitely a challenge to choose something and then to hyper focus on that thing and exploit it until you see the maximum return on your investment. And that's exactly what I'm challenging each one of us to do. So as we're preparing for the upcoming winter months, what we are challenged with doing is going back and revisiting our farm areas. So for each one of us who've come in, we've had the conversation about, hey, what's your farm area? If you didn't get a chance to start earlier with your business plan, then maybe that's something that we need to go back and revisit now. But either way, we want to look at the area that you are interested in. It can be the area that you live in or another area that you choose to farm, okay? It's best sometimes to choose where you live, because that's where you're going to be able to be involved and be active in your farm area. Because in your farm area, that's going to be a geographic location, whether it's a zip code, whether it's a city or something, or multiple subdivisions. It's going to be an area that, just like a farmer, you're going to plant seeds in that area. And just like a farmer, you're going to water it and you are going to manage your harvest from that area, okay? So as it pertains to real estate, what does that look like when we're talking about farming an area? Can somebody tell me what we're talking about in terms of seeding that area and in terms of watering your seed? Does anybody have an idea of what we're talking about with regards to real estate and your marketing endeavors in your farm area? I will continue. If you want to unmute yourself or put something in chat, go ahead and do it. And I know that there are multiple people on here who know how to answer that question, because I've had those conversations with you. So I know you guys know the answer to that question, but I'm going to go ahead and continue for the sake of time. So as it pertains to your farm area, there are some strategies that we've reviewed. And what my goal is to have each of us to choose a marketing strategy. And these are going to be campaigns that you're going to choose, postcards, mailers, and different marketing pieces that you are going to, just like seed, you're going to keep sending those marketing pieces to that specific area. And over time, you're going to start to receive listings from that area, because your marketing pieces, those are your seeds that you're sowing into your farm area, which is a geographic location that you're going to choose to focus on and to hyper focus on, right? So last week, the end of our training last week, I challenged you guys to do something that I hear that Kermon has done. So I'm happy to hear that you've done that. I said, for whatever your farm area is, whether it's your zip code, go and put it into Bright. Look at all the status fields and see how many homes, see how active that farm area is. And if it's very active, meaning that you see a minimum of 500, it would be great if you saw 1,000 or more, but a minimum of 500 homes. So if you chose every status, so from active, under contract, coming soon, closed, within the last 6 months or so, then that's a good indication that your farm area is active, and it's going to give you a sufficient turnover so that you can actually have listings to close and sell, versus choosing areas that are your, maybe a home sells around here maybe once every year, because once people get here, they don't want to move out. You know what I mean? So from that perspective, we want to be very strategic. We want to look at the area that we're choosing as our farm. We want to become familiar with the area that we're choosing as our farm. Okay. We had a conversation about demographics in that area. Does anybody remember that conversation around demographics and certain things that we need to know so that we know how to market to the people that we're targeting?
Well, Ms. Porter, I remember we talked about age, the age group. We talked about income status, whether it was an area where most of the people had children. So those were the different things that we were looking at to be able to use as a comparison of what that area is, how active it is, and what most of the people, what their concerns are. A lot of areas that I saw, it was a lot of parents with children. So they were going to be concerned about schools. They're going to be concerned about that type of thing. I saw another area where the age demographic was older. And it seemed like those were people who, and in that area was exactly what you said, they didn't move out a lot. So they came in, they were settled, they were older. But the area that really kind of caught my eye, I saw an area where the income, the area was really kind of lower than what the prices of the houses were going for. So I didn't know exactly how that worked, but it seemed like the income or the medium income was a lot lower than what the houses were what the asking price of the houses were. So it just made me think that in that area, most of those people, they're going to probably just stay, and the people that's going to be coming in are going to probably move that median income line up, because to be able to move into those houses, they're going to have more income.
That's a very interesting perspective, and thank you for sharing. Just very briefly, what that sounds like, or the way that could correlate, is if those property values have gone up substantially in the last few years or so, then that could explain why there seems to be a disconnect there, as if it's not balanced, because they could be benefiting from a whole lot of equity that they didn't have before. So that's a very good pointer to make. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was thinking, well, the area that I'm interested in farming, originally what I was seeing, and I'm still seeing that, is that the folks who are coming in are new professionals who, and sometimes they're single, but most of the time they come in paired, actually getting ready to start families, I guess. But they're young professionals that are moving into the area. And so they will be interested in schools, but they're also interested in all the wonderful things that might be available for them to go and see. They're very mobile. They're usually looking for some different kinds of entertainment, or if they can't do the entertainment because of the pandemic, they're doing those things in their homes and in their backyards. So they're looking for specific types of home properties that will allow them that flexibility to either fence for children or just, have open space to enjoy themselves. And they're looking to be sort of close to the city for the possibility of entertainment that could be available should the pandemic get, abate enough so that they can go ahead and do these things. These folks like to go out to eat. What I'm seeing in the neighborhood is they do a lot of, what are they calling that? I can't remember the companies, but they're delivering meals all the time. They're always, Amazon is always coming around. There's always Giant Grocery is always coming around. So they're looking for DoorDash, thank you. Yes. So that those kinds of things are always happening in that neighborhood. So these folks want, they want versatility. So you have to, you're that's who you're marketing to. So those are the kinds of things that you probably would need to put in your campaigns, if you're trying to attract buyers to like listings that you do have. So that was one, the young upwardly mobile professional. And then also the neighborhood that I'm looking at has a lot of downsizers that are moving out. So those are the folks if you're working with them as well, because you've got a listing from them and then you want to get them into a place, after they leave their home, then you would need to know what neighborhoods are available that would work for folks who are settled and who are not necessarily looking for all of that, but really want some peace and quiet, and also a place where they can do everything right there where they are. So they don't want to have to go, into the city or wherever else to get their entertainment. They want to be able to do everything where they are. So those are the two demographics that I am seeing in the farm area that I have.
Thank you for sharing, Dee. I appreciate it. And for those who may not understand the correlation between the conversation that we're having here, we're talking about marketing. And in order to have an effective marketing campaign, you got to know your audience, right? So when we're talking about what are the demographics of the neighborhood, who are we serving? If we are sending out these mass mailers to this community, which is going to be our farm area, who are these people? What are their interests? What is their income range? What is their education range? What is the family structure over here by and large, so that we know how to market to them, so that you are sure that in general, or, by and large, your marketing campaign is going to resonate with them. Because if you're sending something to a community that's a seniors community, and you're sending it about, little infants and, them going to school, it may not ring as true. It may not, connect with your audience the way that you would want it to. So that's why we're talking about taking a deep dive into your farm area, with learning your area, learning what the numbers are on Bright, so you know how much turnover there is, but then also learning the demographics, so that when you guys are sending emails to info@Porterhouse Realty Pros to get your postcard mailer sent, to establish that campaign, you tell us exactly what you want, where you want it to go to. And you can choose specific demographics. You can say, okay, I want everybody in this price range, or in this education range, or, whatever. You can specify your demographic in the marketing pieces that you're going to choose. But it's important for you guys to have those thoughts in your mind, so that you know how to connect with your audience. Okay. So all the information that's being shared is extremely insightful. So thank you for sharing it. That being said, there are going to be some things that will be specifically tailored to your market. So all of it may not make it into your marketing pieces, and that's fine. But I do want you to know your audience and who you're marketing to. And that's going to be varied for each of us, because depending on where your farm area is, like we've heard, it's going to definitely determine which marketing campaigns are going to be most effective in that area. Okay. So farm areas, for everybody who was on the call last week, did have a chance to share their farm areas with me. If you haven't had a chance to do a deep dive into your farm area as of yet, it is not a problem. It's okay. That's why we're doing this. What I do want you to do, for the sake of today's conversation, is I want you to think about your farm area, and whatever, if you've already been working on an area, thinking about an area, if you've been marketing to them, that's the area that I want you to choose today. And as I said a few minutes back, you can either choose an area in which you live, or one that you spend some time in, because you want to be able to be an active part of your farm area, right? If you're spending hundreds of dollars and you're sending out mailers and marketing pieces, you want people to be able to go into the local grocery store or the Starbucks and say, don't I know your face from somewhere? You look familiar. I've received your marketing pieces, right? So you want to have a presence in your farm area. And that's one of the reasons why it's a good thing to farm the area that you live in. Okay. So another reason to farm the area that you live in is so that you are the local market expert, right? Now, it's possible to become a market expert just by looking at your numbers. Okay, so some of the things that we talked about needing to know about your farm area, you need to know what the market activity is. You need to know how much turnover there is. We talked about the different property types. You need to know if it's a condo, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo, you need to know what the average sales price is if those are abundant in your farm area. If they're townhouses, 3 levels, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, you need to know what the average prices are for those. Same thing for single family. If it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, you need to know what those are. Or if it's a 5-bedroom, 5 bath, you need to know the data. You need to know the specifics. You need to know the numbers in your farm area, so that when you're having conversations with people, you're confident because you've done those numbers, right? And it'll take you running those numbers at least, once a quarter, at the very minimum, once every 6 months, so that you can stay on top of your farm area. And it's no different than doing a CMA. You're running the numbers to see what's going on in your market. And there is a way to do that with Bright, and I will have Steve Huber to come back on and show us specifically how to tailor those statistics on there to your farm area, because you're able to do hot sheets and all kinds of stuff to limit the work that you guys actually have to do there. But that being said, each of us, we need to have a farm area. So anybody who was not on here last week, I want you to tell me what your farm area is going to be. And this is the area that you are going to choose to market to. All right. So who would like to start us out? All right, let's see. As Dee said last week, I called on everybody. So we will start today. Darlene, would you tell me what you'd like your farm area to be?
I was just on Bright looking up my farm area. So it's going to be, I'm going to do, my zip code is 206. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do my area, which is, the zip code is 20601.
Okay, perfect. 20601. And
Yes.
in terms of property types in your area that you're interested in, where would you like to focus?
Single family.
Okay. All right. So you said you're on Bright. That's great. Keep going so that you can look up all the information about your farm area. And here's another thing, guys. The benefit that we have, in most of us living in different areas, is that you can have a resident expert in that area. So if you live in 20601, somebody else lives in, the next zip code over. If you have questions, you can look it up or you can call your colleague, right? So everybody should be a resident expert in their farm area. Okay. So let's see, from last week, Paula. Welcome, Paula. What would you like your farm area to be?
Well, since I just got to Waldorf and I'm really trying to get a handle on this farming area, I guess it would be Waldorf.
Okay. Give me a zip code.
20603.
Perfect. All right. And then 20603, what property types would you like to focus on?
Single family.
All right. Who else do we have with us today? Rachel. Welcome, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
My area, I don't have my laptop in front of me. I'm at the barbershop with my son.
Okay.
My area will be, I would say, Fort Washington.
Okay. 20744.
Yes.
And what property types down there would you like to focus on?
Single family, because you have more single family in Fort Washington and like the Accokeek area.
Okay. Is there anybody else who didn't get a chance to share last week? I believe everybody else had a chance to share. All right, perfect. So we're going to take a deeper dive. So this is perfect because as we are preparing for our winter months, the goal is for all of our marketing activities to be centered around your farm area. Okay. Now I say that with the caveat that when you guys have listings and you have sales, you're going to automatically market to that area because you're going to send out your just sold, you're going to send out your just listed, so forth and so on. So those are going to be varied. You'll find those in various areas. Some of them may or may not be within your farm area, but your farm area is your purposeful, consistent marketing endeavors month after month in order to become that neighborhood realtor. Okay. Does that make sense? Or does anybody have any questions about the difference between the two of those? Okay, perfect.
makes
I want you guys. Excellent. So you're going to be marketing in various arenas, but you're going to focus your marketing efforts on your farm area. Okay. So in your farm area, I'm going to take us to right for just a moment. Give me just a second. Okay. So take us to Bright for just a moment. And as we see, say by chance, I went to criteria and I put in a zip code 20735. You see here where the status is. So dates or days, I chose everything. So all the status, so I can see what my market activity is. And that's within the last 180 days. So my results are going to tell me how active my farm area is. Okay. So now this is everything. This is 462 properties within my farm area. And this is going to tell me everything that's coming soon, everything that's active, and so forth and so on. So I will see how active my farm area is. Now, of course, my goal is not going to be marketing to these that are already on the market, right? The good thing is that it is going to tell me that my market is not one that is, sputtering where you get one or two homes every few months or so. Now, something that I can focus on and should focus on in this market, because I chose all the different statuses, I'm going to keep going until I get to those that are your expired, because within your expired, within your withdrawn, you're going to see an opportunity there, right? So let's go past closed and we'll go to expired, because there are various marketing strategies. Some people are choosing your pre-foreclosure, some are choosing your short sale, some are choosing expired, some are choosing various sales types, and all of these are very lucrative and they all work. The goal, however, is for you to choose one, for you to hone in your marketing efforts and choose one of the different marketing strategies or one of the different, targeted audiences, so that you can expend all of your marketing dollars there and you can get the maximum return on your investment. So if I were looking at this area right here, I'm looking at expired properties. And this is just within the last 6 months or so. I go to previous and see if there were any more there. There's one down at the bottom and the next. But if this is my farm area, then here are all of the expired homes, if that is my marketing strategy. If I want to choose expired, then all of these people should be receiving marketing material from me, okay? Everybody knows how to look up your expired homes. You simply choose that as a status and you see everything that has expired. If it has expired, it is fair game and you are able to market to that seller for that listing. The good thing, as we all know, is that with expired homes, you have a seller waving their hand saying, hey, Dee, hey, Angela, hey, Rachel, hey, all of you Porterhouse Realty pros, I actually want to sell my home. Didn't work out with the last agent, but hopefully it'll work out with you, okay? So that's a very powerful audience there. So that being said, you want to make sure that you are diligent and you follow up with them, okay? That being said, you also have some that are canceled. You have various sales types, canceled and you're withdrawn. Pay attention to whether or not it's still under an active listing agreement And that's what's going to be important. If it is still listed with another brokerage, you can't touch it. You and I all know that. But if it is expired or the listing agreement was canceled and they no longer have a brokerage agreement, then that property is fair game and you are able to market to that for future business. All right. Does anybody have any questions with that or any area that they'd like to review? Area. Somebody throw out a zip code for us to look at.
Can we do 20744?
Mrs. Porter, you were saying that if they're under contract, you cannot work with them. Of course, we know that. If they are expired and we're talking about within, if we're beyond the 30-day period, how would you know if they haven't either extended or signed up with someone else?
So let me make sure I understand your question. The first thing you said was very important. If they're working with another broker, then you can't touch them. That's called going behind the sign. So the easiest way to ensure that we are all compliant is that we simply ask, right?
Oh,
When you have a conversation with them, you say, hey, are you currently working with any other broker? And they're going to let you know yes or no.
thank you. I didn't realize it was that simple. So, but if you're marketing to them, and you're not, you're marketing by letter, postcard, blah, 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 you haven't spoken with them yet. So if you're marketing, are you not in compliance?
That is a very good question as well. And our marketing pieces, they have a little disclaimer on there that says, this is not intended to interfere. It's something to the effect of it's not intended to interfere with any brokerage relationship. If you're already working with another agent, something to that effect. So that's a very good question.
Okay, great. Now I feel better. Because I was trying to figure out, how would I know that? So just ask, when you get to talk to them, just ask. And when you're marketing, you have a disclaimer on your materials that let them know that if they already have a broker of some sort, that you are not going to interfere with that relationship. Okay, great. Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. You got it. Not a problem. And just as another little piece of information there, in Bright, it's going to let you know when their expiration is. So when we all put our listings into Bright, we have to put the active date and we also have to put when the listing expires. So in Bright, you'll be able to go and look at that property to see if the listing has expired. But whether that says it has or it hasn't expired, it's always a good thing to ask. And that goes across the board. So whether we're working with buyers or sellers, one of the first questions that you ask is, are you working with another agent? Okay. And then if they say, no, I'm not working with an agent, or they say, I've had a couple conversations with an agent, but I haven't signed any agreements, then you know that you're doing okay there. Okay. So Rachel, you said Fort Washington 20744. This is everything from 20744 for the last 6 months there. You see the activity in your market. There's quite a bit going on in the market down there.
So quick question, with
Sure.
us marketing to them, are we like sending it out through the mail? Like what do you think is the best technique to market to our farming area?
So that is an excellent question, Rachel. And there are numerous ways to market to your farm, okay? We've talked about several of them. The one that we were focused on for last week was your marketing, your mailers, right? But there are quite a number of different marketing campaigns. You have your postcards, you have your letters that you send out to them, you have door hangers, you have your online marketing where you can do, whether it's a Facebook ad, a Google ad, or some of those where you do a zip code and you market to everybody within that zip code. There are different dialers that you can do. What's the name of it? Is it slide out or slide broadcast? That's the name of it, where you can choose a set group of sellers and you do a slide broadcast, and it's going to actually send your voicemail to the mailbox of each one of the people that are within that list. And they are all going to get a message to give you a call back. There are so many different ways to market to them. To door knock, there you can, send out your newsletters, of course. putting them in your constant contact. So as you gather information from them, you're sending them emails. So we could go on and on with regards to marketing strategies. What we've been focused on for last week and today is your mailers. So your mailing campaigns, those are the ones that we're talking about for now. We'll take a deep dive into the other ones, but that was a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. Do you have any questions with any of the material, any of the data that you're seeing from your farm area, Rachel? Or does anybody else have any questions?
So with the withdrawn, that's the same like the expired? That means that could possibly mean that they're not working with their agent anymore, right?
So I'm glad you asked that question because they're slightly different. Expired means they're no longer under a brokerage agreement. Withdrawn simply means that the seller chose to remove the property from the market. It does not necessarily mean that their listing agreement with the brokerage has expired. So what we do is we open that up and we need to go in and find out if their listing agreement has expired, and if not, when that actually does expire. Okay.
Okay.
And that may mean asking a question to them so that we can confirm.
Okay.
Okay. Very good question there. Does anybody else have any other questions about that? All right, so here's another one. So here's where we are with regards to Remind, because I know Dee had a question last week about Remind, and I believe a couple others may have also. We received a notice from Steve Hoover when he did our training a few weeks back that Realty Track is now a product that you purchase. I think it's only like $19 a month or something like that. But Realty Track used to be included with our Bright MLS membership. Realty Track is now a paid subscription. So Realty Track is one of the first and foremost places we went to get the information for our foreclosures. However, we have 3 different sources that we've used for information for pre-foreclosures. That was Realty Track, RPR, and Remind Pro, okay? Remind Pro is still right here. It's still at your disposal. You click right on there and you're able to get all the information that you've been able to get previously with regards to the different sales type. You can do all of your searches. You can save it. You can send out information from here. So Remind is still very much available to all of us. So you can go and you can search your properties. You can search your pre-foreclosures and everything directly from there. Okay. You can also do the same thing with RPR. All right. So if you have any questions, we'll circle back around through Remind training and RPR training as well. But for the sake of our training today, I just wanted to touch on those so that you know that just because Realty Track is now a paid subscription, you still have Remind and you still have RPR, which come along with your subscription to Bright MLS. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Nope, I'm clear on it.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to take a pause there for a moment for comments from you guys, questions. What further insight do you need in terms of your farm area? I'm going to pause and I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, Jasmine, I didn't hear. What was your question?
What are your thoughts? What are your considerations? What questions do you have? What further information do you need?
Oh, I need a whole lot of information. So I'm just listening, a whole lot of information.
Well, that's great. That's always great. If there's, so I know that we have had quite a number of trainings. So even on everything that I've touched on today, on our Porterhouse International Realty Group YouTube channel, everything that I've mentioned today, we have videos specific to each one of those items. So if you want to go back and do a quick refresher, if you've heard it once, I promise you it'll benefit you to hear it multiple times. If you're hearing it for the first time, listen to it a couple of times. And then we'll also do the same thing as we continue in this training series. Okay, so we're going to go through each one of these in detail. But just to give you a cheat sheet, go back and, listen to some of those videos and get that information afresh. All right. Is there anything in particular, Paula? Because we have a few minutes left. Is there anything in particular that we can start on for you today?
I mean, I guess the marketing is a big thing, but where to go to get the marketing materials and just that in general. I think that I would definitely like to start with mailers if I'm going to do any marketing at all. Started because I haven't done any. Life has been crazy, but where would be a good place to start as far as mailers are concerned?
So that is a very good question. And that's information that I want to reiterate to everybody. Your guys' mailers, marketing for mailers is the simplest request that you can make, because you literally just send an email to info@porterhouserealtypros.com. And in that email, you let us know what your target market in that farm area and what type of mailers you want to send out. And you will receive an email. In that email, you're going to receive proofs, and you'll be able to take a look at it and see if this is what you had in mind. And once you approve it, then it's going to be sent out to the farm area that you choose. So that's the easiest thing that you can do there. info@porterhouserealtypros.com. In the subject line, you simply request marketing campaign for, what was your area? 20603. Okay, so that's very simple to do. There are I know that a couple of our other agents, or at least one of our other agents, has expanded their marketing campaigns, and they've chosen some that'll be sent directly to them as well. I know that Curtis did that. He had another marketing site where he could order mailers and they ship them directly to him. So that is the easier thing. I'm not sure how cumbersome that process is, but I know through Porterhouse, it's literally you just sending an email and approving the proof, and you'll receive an invoice, you pay for it, and it's sent out for you. Everything is done.
Okay, thank you.
You are very welcome.
Quick
Does
question.
anybody
So
else
with,
have- Sure.
yeah, yes, sorry. So with you guys sending it directly out for us, can we do more than one specific farming area, or is it just the one that we just talked about today?
So that's a very good question too, and that's along the lines of the discussion that we had. So I will just share with you the goal. So let me say this. The answer is yes, you can send out a mailer to more than one area, right? You can absolutely. What our hope is, however, is that you guys will choose something and exploit it. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you choose a farm area, this area has 1,000 houses in it, I want you to choose that marketing campaign and stick to that campaign for 6 months, and you continually farm that exact same area so that you're sending mailers out. In the very beginning, you're going to be sending multiple mailers per month. And then afterwards, you're going to have one mailer per month, every single month in that farm area. Because the goal is for you to become the name synonymous with real estate in that farm area. And we do that by making sure that we hone in and hyper focus and have your dollars focused in one area, right? In doing so is going to give you the maximum return on your investment. So that being said, that is how we're going to hyper focus, or teach you guys how to hyper focus your marketing endeavors. And that's where you're really going to start to see things pop, and you're going to start to receive calls, but you've got to commit to it at least for 6 months, 6 to 9 months. And then you're going to stop. You're going to see things begin to automate themselves. Okay. And that's when you're going to need to have help and quite a number of things going on, but it's going to require your diligence and your persistence over time to doing the same thing. And that's with anything. So that being said, can you make that type of an investment and that type of commitment of yourself, your efforts and your time into more than one location? I'm going to leave that up to you to answer. Okay. That being said, it's much more effective when we focus on one thing at a time. And once you've mastered that one thing, then you add something else on. But the goal is to have you to be focused, and then to do so consistently over time, so that now you have a track record of success. Now you have listings coming in and business coming in from the farm area. So now you don't have to pay so much attention to building it, because it'll start to then automate itself, that you can just allocate those dollars and then you add something else that you're going to focus on. But my recommendation is for us not to divide our focus into many locations that we have not until we've mastered at least one of them.
So basically you're saying.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
Herman, I see you've unmuted yourself. You have something?
Yeah, Ms. Porter. Okay, so, all right, so here's the situation. Okay, so some of the farming areas that we're dealing with, some of the zip codes encompass such a large area with so many different properties, and it's not feasible, to do them all at one time. So when you're trying to hone in on how you want to work a particular area, and you can't market the entire area because of cost constraints or whatever, how do you fine tune and horn in on the area that you want? Give you an example. Okay, 20716 is the Bowie area, large area, lot of houses, a lot of competition. So trying to do that entire area, trying to sweep that entire area with a marketing piece is going to be can be financially problematic. So how do you kind of start out? Let's say you wanted to start out with a couple of 100 pieces or 300 pieces or whatever it is. How do you identify where you want to go first, second, third? Do you start from, a central point and kind of move out? Or do you start at, well, you tell me, how do you do it?
That is an excellent question, Kermon, and thank you for asking that. Now, a hint to that question is the questions that I asked you guys over this week and last. You start with your area, and then you're going to add filters to it. What are your property types, right? So if you said single family, okay, now that you have your zip code, you have your property type, now what's your demographic? Your demographic is, you might say homeowners that earn above a certain amount. You may say homeowners that have at least, one college degree. You may say homeowners that have at least $100,000 worth of equity in their home. You may say homeowners that have lived in their home for at least 5 to 8 years. So you start to add overlays to it so that you can get so laser-like focused that even if you have a broad area, your marketing pieces are specific to those people in that area that are your actual target. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now let me ask you a question. So those filters or those overlays, you can already put that in, so you can fine tune it. Now, is that in Bright, or are we going to someplace like Remind or something like that? Is that right there in Bright?
So that is an excellent question too, and that is right in Remind. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so in Remind, you're going to be able to add quite a number of filters, and we'll revisit this, so no worries. So we'll show you guys how to pull up the area and add all the filters that you want so that you can actually have a laser-like focus within that area. Okay, and you can do something very similar in Bright, because in Bright, you can choose your zip code, you can choose your property type, you can choose your price point, you can choose how many bedrooms and bathrooms you want it to have. You can choose if you want to say that the property taxes or something of that nature. You can choose those different type of specifics in Bright, and then those that are varied in Remind as well, so that you can have a laser-like focus in your farm area.
Now, see, when I was doing that in Bright, I was basically doing that more for clients who were looking for a particular house, okay, because they wanted a house with 4 bedrooms or whatever the case may be. I was not using it for in this vein, because I don't know why, but I was thinking more along Remind and those types of things when I was thinking about the marketing piece. You know what I'm saying?
I do, and that's very insightful, because between Remind and Bright, you're going to get some different information. A lot of it's going to be overlay, but you will have access to information and filters in Remind that you don't have access to in Bright, but then vice versa. So just like if you were doing an auto email for your clients, do the same thing for yourself in your farm area, because you're bringing a very broad spectrum out into a laser-like focus so that you can concentrate your efforts and make sure that your dollars are wisely spent. Okay.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thank
Thank
you.
you for that question. You're welcome. Does anybody else have any other questions? We are 2 minutes past our time. I want to honor your guys' time and let you continue having a productive rest of the day. I will go ahead if there are no more questions, and I will end our recording for today. I'm going to hang on for a few more minutes in the event that anybody has any other questions or anything they'd like to share. But for the sake of our Porterhouse Realty Talks for today, I want to go ahead and end it for those who need to get back to work, or if you have something else that you're doing, I want to honor your time, okay? Does anybody else have anything else that they'd like to share for the sake of the recording? All right, then I'm going to go ahead and end our recording for today. And as always, we will be back next Thursday, 12:30 until 1:30 p.m. on Porterhouse Realty Talks. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a phenomenal rest of the day.